I want to show you how to use skills with Copilot Cowork and finance and operations. As I'm recording this, Copilot Cowork is still brand new. It's part of the Frontier program, and a huge advantage is that you can use skills and that you can add custom skills with Cowork. You can create up to 50 custom skills, and they can even include companion and reference files, up to 10 megabytes per skill. In my case, this environment is connected to finance and operations, so I'll show you a couple of ERP use cases. If you want to know how to do that, I'll link a video, and you can set up finance and operations to connect to Cowork. So in this video, I'll show you 3 ways that you can use skills, and then I'll show you a little bonus at the end for what I think the next steps are of skills with another preview feature. The first one is, how do you use skills out of the box? So I head over to aka.ms/cowork, and then it will open a M365 Copilot chat and then convert that into Cowork. So what we're going to talk about today is skills, and you can find them here under the plus sign, under work content, and then skills. And here you can see some of the out-of-the-box skills. So for example, let's use this PowerPoint skill. And I am going to ask this, which is connected to Dynamics 365 ERP, to create a PowerPoint with one slide that shows the overview of the purchase order status and top orders and vendors in USMF for the operations leader. And then I'm going to hit enter, and it will start running this request, gathering the data and creating the PowerPoint file for us. One thing that I want you to note is that you can see which skills it loaded in this side panel on the right. Now for this video, I'm going to show you which prompts I used, and then I'm going to switch to a chat in which I've already executed it, because it does take a while for it to gather the data and to create the PowerPoint. So in this case, for the PowerPoint skill, I'm going to switch to one where I've done the exact same prompt with the same skill. And we can see here how it collected the data, and then it used the skill to create the slide. And it will also explain what it did with the slide. So it did a KPI strip, status breakdown, and then as I asked, the top purchase and top vendors. Let's go into it. This is my slide with the purchase order operations dashboard, and it's kind of did a little bit of a design with the KPI strip at the top. So this was completely out of the box. The next way I want to show you to use skills is to use external sources. And I am going to get this from a skill library. So I really like this one, skills.sh. It has thousands of curated skills that link to GitHub. And for example, one that I thought we could use here is a KPI dashboard. So instead of explicitly saying to the dashboard which KPIs it should use, I would just give it this KPI design skill, and it will be able to create dashboards much better than me and be able to tell me which KPIs might be important for my executive. So if I go into it, you'll see it gives me an explanation of what this skill is. So for example, what type of KPIs different leaders might be looking at, and then it will do a dashboard hierarchy, common KPIs for different leaders, marketing, product, etc., and then different designs for different dashboards. So how I get this skill is I go over to GitHub, then I find this file. So it was KPI design dashboard, this one. And then this doesn't have any companion file, so I would just download this file. And then I could ask Cowork to install this. I could just drop it into the chat and ask it. But I could also install this manually. And how I would do that is I'd go over to OneDrive, and then I'd go to My Files, Documents, Cowork, Skills. And here you can see I've already created a folder. So I've created a folder with the name of the dashboard design skill. And then I've just dropped this skill.md file that we've downloaded from GitHub here. So then how I would use this is I would go over to aka.ms/copilot. And in this case, I would just ask it to create it a dashboard, and I'm not telling it which KPIs to use because it should know that from the skill. And then I would just say, use this a KPI skills KPI dashboard design. And I'm going to hit enter. the other thing that I wanted to show you is it's also possible to add skills to it as it's going. So here you can see it's loaded this KPI dashboard design. If I also wanted to create the PowerPoint visual, I could just put that in the queue. And then you'll see after a few seconds, it will also add this PowerPoint visual skill as something that it can use. So you can load skills sort of retroactively as you go. See, this was queued, the skill, and as it was working and getting the data, it also added this PowerPoint visual skill. So this is going to still build the slide. I'm going to head over to a chat where it's already finished. Okay, so now we can see it's done. The Finance Executive Dashboard is ready. It's saved here in our output folder, and it will explain it used the headline KPIs, revenue trends, etc. And it'll tell you where it got this data from. So let's check. This is the dashboard that it built without me telling at all which KPIs it needed to use. It pulled all of that from the skill. So here I've used it as a KPI skill, but I'll just go back to the skills library. There's really so many different skills that you can use. I'd encourage you to explore this. For example, you could find supply chain skills, skills for different processes. This is really a good example of how you could use skills for different processes and inspiration for how skills work. So definitely go check out skills.sh. Then the third way I want to show you how to create skills is to use Copilot to create them. And the reason why that works well is because it has a built-in skills management tool that you can access by using /skills. So I'm going to show you how you can convert a policy process into a skill. So let's say I have this process in our company on how to create customers. And it's about creating customers in finance and operations, but it also describes what has to happen outside of finance and operations in order for us to have a trusted relationship with this party so that we don't extend credit to them and they're not a trustworthy party to do business with. So it just explains the process. KYC or know your customer happens before the system, the purpose and the scope of the document, and then you can see here which departments do which steps and the roles and responsibility of different officers. And here you go. It's a long document. It describes all of the steps that you need to do to have a trusted party inside of Dynamics. So what I'll do is I'll go into Cowork. I'll ask it to convert this process document into a skill that it can use when I want to create customers in Dynamics. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to add the file, which will be in Files under Process. And then when I hit OK, it will get started with this. And of course, I want it to use skill management. And then it will load this as a skill so that it knows how to create skills. Then I'll jump to a tab where I've already done this and see the same prompt, process create this KYC, convert this process into a skill that you can use. And I've added the /skills. So it reads the document, it understands the process, and then it generated this skills.md file for me, which it shows me in Markdown to check if this is the skill that I want to use. So it focuses on KYC or know your customer being before the system, it explains when not to use it, and then all of the steps as well as the approval matrix. And then after it created the skills, I said, great, add this to your skill library. And then it did a quality check to see if this is actually a good skill. So it said, excellent skill. It has 14 triggers and it passed all of the triggers when it did a test case. So this is pretty impressive. I would say that it not only adds the skill when you ask it, but because we're using skill management skill, the /skills, it also makes sure to check that this is actually an okay skill. And so let's see if we use this skill. I'll go to MS Cowork. Now we know that the skill should already be installed here under skills. And here it is, D365 customer onboarding. And then what I'll do is I'll pretend I want to create a customer in Dynamics because this environment is still connected. Create customer, the coffee co in Dynamics. So it automatically added the skill, D365 customer onboarding, without me adding it, right? I didn't say which skills to use. It just knew that this is for a customer, so it's adding it. Then it asks me before it creates the coffee co in Dynamics, it will need to confirm KYC per our company's policies. And it then asks me, can I continue? Is this already done? Or I haven't started yet. And if I do this, it will guide me through the process of creating a company within these different legal entities. And then I also promised a bonus skill. So the next step that I think for skills is to use business skills within Dataverse. So I have here the same environment in the Power Platform. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is that you will be able to add business skills. This is also a preview feature. And for example, I've added that supply chain risk auditor here, and you can see it's just has a name, a description, and then these instructions from the supply chain skill that I've downloaded. And as we've discussed, skills can have resources. So this has a template, how the audit for the supply chain should be formatted when it comes out, and I've added that. So I don't have my Copilot connected to Dataverse, but I will connect it in the future, and then we can see how you can use skills from business skills in Dataverse within Cowork.